I'm good. I'm Brandon.
Mark, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you for coming in today. Before we get started, I wanted to have you read off on that paper in front of you. It's basically explaining that you're okay with receiving treatment for the purpose of educational purposes, for this class.
Sure.
And if you have any sort of further need for assessment or consultation, you can reach out to my professor, which is number is provided on there.
Sure.
So if you're okay with that, you can go ahead and sign,
Yeah.
and we can get started. All right, Mark. So with this initial assessment, it's basically just going to be asking you pretty general questions about your life, like for example, any sort of like problems that you feel like you might be having, stuff like living situations, just pretty much everyday life stuff. So to start off, is there any sort of initial problems or symptoms you feel like are important to address?
Not really at this time, no.
Okay,
No.
cool. So tell me about your living situation a little bit.
So, I live at home with my parents, even throughout college. I just kind of commuted with co-ops, and I commuted through all that, so.
Okay. What is the name of your people that you live with, your parents or siblings?
Scott and Marcy.
Okay.
Yep.
And what is your relationship to them?
They're my mom and dad.
Okay.
Yep.
And how old are both of them?
55 and 56.
Okay.
Yep.
How would you determine or say what your relationship is with them? Do you say it's a pretty good relationship?
Yeah, I would
pretty
say
close.
it's pretty close. We spend a fair amount of time together. I would say tend to be pretty open with conversations and that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you go out and do like a lot of activities with them, or you hang out with them a lot, or?
Yeah, I would say a fair amount of time.
Okay.
I mean, you always wish you could be more vulnerable or spend more time with that. I mean, I would say we all kind of deal with our fair share of, busyness and work stuff and everything like that, but I would say we value that time.
Okay. So going off that, that ability to be like vulnerable, who would you say is like your primary support system?
I mean, I would say both my parents. I probably feel mostly comfortable, being open to and going to them whatever help I need. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody else that you feel like you're comfortable enough to open up to or go to if you need them?
I mean, sometimes friends, other family members, but I'd say for the most part, probably them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are some of your better strengths or like capabilities, if you had to pick a few?
Say I try to be really hardworking, and I would say I can be focused and pretty detail oriented. Try to really focus on continual improvement.
Okay.
Every day.
Yeah. How are you typically able to apply that to your everyday life or work life?
Kind of just through your, self-discipline and, for me, focus on the tasks at hand and, just kind of persevering through the difficulties and that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's pretty good use of those skills.
Yep.
So now I'm gonna kind of look more like at a family history for you. Is there any sort of like drug use in your family in the past, or mental health conditions?
No.
No. Any sort of like biological conditions?
Nope.
No. Okay. What sort of like meaningful activities would you say that you've been able to partake in with your family? It's gonna be like community involvement or volunteer, leisure activities, just whatever.
I'd say we tend to have a lot of meals and that together, and some family get-togethers for birthday parties, holidays, kind of things, celebrations, ceremonies for graduations and weddings and things like that. I would say helps our family, stay close in that. Also, say I like to partake in like church activities and that with family members, and then we kind of do some maybe sporting kind of things together and
So it sounds like you kind of are pretty closely knit family. Like you do a lot of stuff
Yeah.
together.
Sure.
Okay. Does this go on to like extended family too, or mostly just
Um,
parents, siblings?
For the most part, kind of just my parents, maybe like my grandparents, my
Okay.
sister, and that. A lot of other family maybe lives a bit further away, or kind of maybe don't see quite as much, obviously. But
Okay.
I would say overall, most of the family still, gets along pretty well together.
That's a good thing. So you said that church is one of the things that you do with your family quite a bit. Just tell me a little bit about like your religious or spiritual background.
Sure. So, from a young age, parents kind of brought me into church and going there most weeks, and they were always involved with different groups. And the dad kind of was in charge of the offerings on the weekends, and my mom helped out with different communion kind of setup and cleanup and that. And it was clear value in their life. And I could see that from a young age, and got involved with some different families for like kind of get-togethers and that. And so it was clear from like a young age that was a vital part of their lives. And it eventually kind of grew up into middle school and high school, and that got into some different youth groups and kind of met some people, made some friends that way. And a couple of years ago, kind of changed churches and started going there and going in a new college group there and made some additional friends there.
Okay.
Yep.
So it sounds like a pretty big part of your life.
Yeah, sure.
Seems like something that you learned from a young age and it's kind of just like blossomed over time.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So in the community that you live in, do you feel like you identify with the majority of like the cultural or ethnic background that is within that community?
Yes and no. I would say I try to, fit in as much as you can, obviously with people. And I would say a lot of the activities I partake in probably help me to fit in with more of that niche kind of overall. But at the same time, you kind of still have to feel that sense of independence and be yourself and that. And a lot of people in society probably don't necessarily fit that, mold that you're kind of looking to be in life.
Yeah.
But so it's that fine balance.
Okay.
For sure.
Do you feel like you're pretty comfortable with your cultural or ethnic situation then?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your educational background, like high school and years of college that you've completed.
Sure. So went to Jackson and graduated in 2019.
Okay.
And this is my 5th year dual student at Malone and at Akron. And I'll be graduating here shortly with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering.
Cool.
Yeah.
How have you liked it so far?
It's good. Yep.
Do you feel like what you're doing is what fits into your sense of calling? Pretty
Yeah,
well?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you plan on doing continued education after you graduate?
I may in the future. It's not something I'm not like enrolling classes right now, or like going to start right up in the summer, fall as of now, kind of thing. But as as my career kind of evolves and maybe a company kind of wants me to lead into something else, maybe I will.
Gotcha.
But as of now, I'm not.
Okay. Have you had any
enrolling.
sort of like learning difficulties either in the past or in the present?
Back when I was younger than that, I actually probably 4 or 5, somewhere in there, that I had some like kind of speech therapy and that with kind of speech impediments and pronunciation and that. That kind of mostly kind of resolved and got better with some weekly visits and
Gotcha.
whatever with that. And then later on, I would say in about middle school and that, I started dealing with some, I don't know if it was more school anxiety or kind of anxieties and that in general, kind of in other areas of life. Met with therapists for a little bit and to try mentally get me kind of back on track.
Okay. How did that go?
It went mostly well.
Yeah.
say that went on probably about maybe year or so.
Okay.
And he kind of just kind of helped guide me and help me through kind of the stresses.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you still have that anxiety whenever with
Um,
school or just
I
social?
mean, I would say different things happen in life that kind of, as you enter new phases, you go through different things,
Mhm.
kind of teach you things, kind of give you different anxieties, with school or, family
Yeah.
things or relationships or sport things. I mean, I think just general trying to balance everything can kind of lead to a lot of probably anxieties on its own, especially, you're finishing up college, you're looking to
Yeah.
graduate and work and, start the next
Mhm.
phase of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, each phase of life probably presents its own things.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a stressful time, so it can kind of present anxiety in different ways as well.
Yep.
Anything else I should know about past with anxiety?
No.
Okay. What about employment? Where are you currently working, or have you worked in the
Yep.
past?
So, I worked in the summertime as a caddy out at Brookside Country Club for about 6 or 7 years. Um, and that's provided a lot of good opportunities with meeting people and has kind of fit in with maybe leading me in some career
Mhm.
path, and honestly liking golf, and that fits in
Okay.
well there, and it has had good flexibility fitting with other class schedules and things
Gotcha.
like that. So I've done that. I had a short period of time a couple of years ago where I did a little bit of door dashing, um, but then I stopped doing that. And then as part of my engineering degree, I've had a couple different co-op rotations in
Okay.
that, and more in line with my career path.
Are you still in that rotation right now, or?
So no, that the last one I did was last summer there,
Okay.
and I've been in full-time classes in that since then. But I actually began working there full-time here in the summer.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the name of your employer there?
Chef Club.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. How do you say your attendance is, being to work, or even being in classes, like stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. I would say overall attendance is obviously a big thing, and I've always valued, being in class and being attentive and working hard, and this obviously applies to work and that as well. And I think many times it's easy kind of just to skate by with the minimum, or maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily your best work in that, but obviously at working at it, it's very beneficial to go above and beyond the task, and
Okay.
people recognize that effort, your openness for that
Gotcha.
regard.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
So kind of going off that, like, you said you have like a strong desire to be there, just make that effort. How would you say your performance is in the work environment?
I would say it's usually pretty satisfactory. I mean, especially at first as like a newer employee or kind of a co-op thing, you don't
Mhm.
necessarily know a whole lot, of how the company works or maybe some of their products, and you even think you know a lot of stuff because you've been in school and been successful there. So it's kind of a little scary at first,
Yeah, absolutely.
being vulnerable, like asking for help or just saying I don't know how to do something kind of
Mhm.
thing, and then you just put in that effort to learn and do the best you can. Most people are usually pretty responsive with that.
Okay. Yeah, that's great that you're willing to be open to learning.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they're scared to really, you know, branch out and kind of branch out from what they already know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like whenever you start working there, it's gonna be something you're gonna be satisfied with? That workplace.
I would say so. I mean, kind of a bit unsure, past, long term and that, but I was pretty happy it has some different opportunities to look at,
Mhm.
and have something, set in stone, is like my next, thing I can do in life. And there's a lot of different departments and positions of growth there if I, want to pursue that, a couple of years after, or kind of see where the doors open from there.
Okay. Yeah. So like, what would be like your ideal workplace then? Like, if you could really pick one place or one thing to do.
I mean, I like a lot of the engineering, a lot of the technical stuff, but I also kind of like being actively involved with a lot of people in that too, and seeing kind of the business side of it and seeing how the customers interact with things. And so maybe that involves some kind of more travel
Mm-hmm.
kind of based stuff, or maybe some entrepreneur based stuff eventually, or some sales. I'm not exactly where entirely will lead. So like while I like kind of like some of the more standard engineering things, I kind of also like to see where else it leads from there.
Okay. So just kind of open right now.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you have any sort of like financial issues right now? Are you
No.
pretty comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any military past?
No.
Anybody in the family?
No.
Okay. What would be your legal custody and guardian's name?
So just your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Scott and
Scott and
Marcy.
Marcy. Okay.
Yeah.
What would be a good phone number for one of them? Do you know it on hand or no?
Yeah. I mean, you can. Alright, you ready?
Yes, sir.
330-354-9241.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Have you had any sort of legal issues in the past?
Nope.
Any family
No.
legal issues?
No.
Okay. Any CPS involvement?
No.
No. History of mental health treatment. And you mentioned previously you seek counseling for anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this is kind of more like mental kind of.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I mean, I guess maybe kind of just some of those basic, more kind of anxiety kind of related things,
Okay.
or
What agency did you receive counseling through? Unsure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not doing anything right now.
No.
Okay. And then, do you know around what time that was, like a date?
I think I was about in middle school, so it would have been
2013.
Yeah,
Sure.
I was gonna say something around that maybe.
Do you remember your clinician's name?
No.
That's completely fine. Any sort of hospitalizations in regards to mental health conditions or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. Do you have any sort of history of abuse or trauma?
Nope.
No. Okay. Any sort of alcohol or drug history?
No.
Anything within the family?
Nope.
No. Are you around anybody that consistently uses alcohol or drugs?
No.
No. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to finish up by talking about just like a problem checklist for more functional domains.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like you have any sort of like limitations for daily activity?
No.
How would you say like your eating is? Like, do you have any sort of maladaptive patterns or deficiencies?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, kind of some basic food allergies or kind of, food sensitivities kind of thing, like maybe some dairy related things, or kind of, like I kind of watch some of those things I consume, but I mean, I would say I consume a healthy amount of food, and I'm not usually concerned about what I eat.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So you're pretty consistent in
Yeah.
getting those in?
Yep.
Okay. Any sort of like body pain or chronic pain?
No.
No. Any sort of depression, sadness?
No.
Any sort of like grief issues or bereavement issues?
No.
Anxiety? Do you feel like it's kind of still an issue?
I mean, I would say kind of, as you said, it just kind of comes and goes with some things, some periods of life are probably better than others, and
Absolutely.
maybe I'm not always the best with dealing with some of those anxieties with school or different, you know, you got work things coming up or exams coming up or, you know, different things maybe kind of give you anxiety and that, and find ways to, you know, better cope with, you know, anxieties, and that would, you know, probably be beneficial in that, yeah.
Any sort of traumatic stress,
No,
anger or aggression,
no,
oppositional behaviors,
no,
inattention, like trouble focusing,
no,
impulsivity,
no,
any sort of like psychosis or feel like you have trouble connecting to reality sometimes,
no,
mood swings or hyperactivity,
no,
any sort of addictive behavior. This could be like also like gambling. Does that have to be drug?
no.
How have you been sleeping?
I would say, my sleep that I get tends to be pretty good, and I get deep sleep. The trouble has kind of come with sometimes maybe not getting enough sleep or kind of different sleep schedules. For example, one day you stay up late, you know, the next day maybe you go to bed earlier, kind of same thing kind of happens in the morning. So your kind of schedules are not maybe aren't them as consistent as I would like.
Okay. Yeah, so sometimes it's hard to get in a routine that.
For sure,
Yeah.
from day to day and week to week, yeah, especially as, you know, a school student, your days can kind of run into each other that bit, so.
Do you feel tired a lot during the day?
Yeah, I would say that kind of leads to some, maybe your tiredness and kind of, maybe kind of affects some of your focus and kind of, you know, cognitive ability probably as well.
Gotcha. Any other things going on with like sleep?
No.
You feel like it's a
Yeah, I sleep
big
really
concern?
well,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so just kind of trouble getting in that routine sometimes.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Any sort of like sexual concerns?
No.
No. Do you have a current partner?
No.
Is that something that like bothers you, or are you pretty content with where you're at?
Pretty indifferent, yeah.
Okay. So that's what we got for that. I appreciate your willingness to go through that. I know it's a lot of questions, some are
Sure.
personal, but kind of to finish things off, I'd really like to. I know you mentioned spirituality as being a really important thing in your life.
Okay.
So would you mind if we continue on and just talked about kind of some of your like backgrounds with your family and stuff, and kind of understanding why it's important to you and stuff like that?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So just, you know, you already told me a little bit about your family background, but could you kind of just describe the religious or spiritual traditions and what you grew up in, or how your family is able to like express like spiritual beliefs?
Sure. So I mean, yeah, grew up in a non-denominational church at River Tree, and it was kind of a medium-sized church, probably. I would say you still kind of knew most of the people out there, and they had a lot of kids stuff, you know, growing up, and kind of made a couple of friends there, went with a couple of friends there, and they had these kind of midweek kind of things as a middle schooler, and that kind of went to, and actually went on a couple of the trips with a couple of guys, which was fun. And then kind of slowly stopped going there, kind of a handful of years back, due to kind of COVID things, things that were going on in the church. And actually a friend kind of invited me out over at Faith Family. I didn't even hear about like that kind of college group thing. And the first time I went there, it was really cool, met people, and even kind of a couple of leaders kind of came up and, you know, met us, and
that's cool.
Felt really welcoming in that, especially kind of was nice with not necessarily having a kind of like a home church and that for a while, kind of just watching stuff online or whatever kind of things are going on, and really went through that for a while, and kind of friend group kind of really multiplied pretty fast there, and then really started picking up, going there eventually on Sundays with family and that, and that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah. So you feel like you've grown in your spirituality over the years then too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I would say maybe a couple years back, it it goes kind of fluctuations and that different things that happen in your life.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I would say the last couple of years since kind of joining that there, it's been very positive experience.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yep.
Yeah. Does that include extended family too, or is that mostly just you and your family? Or your parents?
So mainly I was just kind of my immediate family. My grandparents kind of started going there with us and that a little while back, and aunt and uncle kind of go there sometimes, and have a sister and brother-in-law that go there and that, but it was mainly just kind of the immediate family. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any sort of like personal experiences within your own family that really stands out to you? Like with, religion, Christianity? Like outside the church environment?
Not really.
No? Okay. That's fine. How do you feel like you have transitioned or matured from just your experiences recently with, going to faith family?
I mean, I think it really challenges you kind of grow in every area of life a bit, and I mean, a lot of times you hear things you maybe necessarily don't want to entirely hear too, because it kind of hits you, and it kind of maybe humbles you, kind of some things, and like, yeah, I kind of am dealing with that problem, or yeah, maybe I kind of am thinking about this in the wrong way, and it kind of, it challenges you maybe, be a better individual, and then kind of that you can, kind of have that presence, like in everything you kind of do. So like throughout the week or whatever, issue you're going through and kind of things, and there's kind of answers for it to, guide you.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you feel like, or how would you describe your spiritual orientation right now? It can be either just in general, or you can compare it to how you were prior to getting involved.
I mean, yeah, so due to all that and kind of a bad relationship and that, I would say my faith went from kind of, I thought it was good to it kind of went to in a spot where it kind of wasn't very good. And then obviously COVID and that was all at the same time. But I would say through kind of, the bad times and the, kind of where things kind of stray away, then you kind of come back stronger and better, I would say, on the other side. And so I would say I'm a lot better than I was a couple of years ago. And I mean, I probably wouldn't think and had such an inspiration for, for growth if a lot of those other things didn't really happen.
So it's because of those experiences that you feel like you've really grown?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that your spirituality is a personal strength?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it helps you endure through a lot of things you probably wouldn't really think you could get through, and it gives you a lot of confidence and peace, probably, even when you really shouldn't feel peace, probably.
Okay. Yeah. So what aspects of your spiritual life give you pleasure?
I mean, I would say looking forward to, being at church and seeing, some of your friends, and that definitely is something I look forward to. But I think it also, it can be pleasurable. I mean, sometimes it can be kind of hard on that too, because it kind of, teaches you things and challenges you to things. So just spending some time, like reading the Bible and just kind of unplugging from everything and just kind of, kind of de-stressing with stuff and just going back to that kind of place of like kind of peace, and there can be kind of power in that, and I feel like during those times you kind of learn some things like I need to like do something about that, or I need to change here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of like a time to be mindful then?
Yeah, kind of reflectiveness and kind of some like journaling kind of time, that helps, I think, kind of reflect on days and, plans for, your weeks ahead, and that kind of, I think it kind of helps get your mind kind of,
I know what you're saying.
Kind of wrapped around, prepared kind of thing.
Gotcha. Do you feel like your spirituality gives you hope for the future then?
Yeah, I would say, I would say your best is always, like ahead of you. There's always going to be new challenges and hurdles to, climb, and as soon as you get to one, stage in life, you're probably going to want to get better with something else, but I would say, looking back on, year in, year out, you can just kind of see the growth in different areas of your life, and I think every day when you wake up, you just need to take, a couple steps, to each of those goals,
So, kind of going off that, what would you like to accomplish with your spirituality and faith in the future?
I would say just being more responsive to, some of those, messages and things that you kind of, feel in your heart. Like, sometimes you kind of brush things off, and you think, like, yeah, like, I know that's maybe a problem or whatever, but you kind of don't really do stuff with it, or you don't really, realize the significance of it. But when you kind of have that open heart and kind of, transform some of those weaknesses, kind of like maybe in your mind, or, in your kind of some of your habits and that, I would say it can be really influential day to day.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really good mindset to have. Like really good for growth. There's that openness and willing to, But do you have any sort of like rituals or practices that help you deal with life's obstacles?
I would say a lot of those things are kind of just the same things, church and, some quiet time, some journaling time. So I would say exercise, is a way of really helping me unplug, or being outside and things like that, and, some friend time and things like that. And I'd say people around you it's easy to kind of feel lonely or want to be kind of isolated many times, that too, but having people around you kind of, helps you stay connected and, moving toward your goals and that.
Okay. So you feel like those activities that you're partaking in, like you mentioned, like gym, journaling, stuff like that, you feel like that's like a spiritual activity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, cause like, I feel like even with like going to the gym and that, you're supposed to, says like, make your body like a holy temple, and, and I think you should watch, what you're eating, watch, how you, treat your body and that, just as much as you would, should worry about what's going on in your mind. And that, I think you should care about, your physical health and that as well.
Yeah. That makes sense. So just in general, what would you say that your current religious or spiritual beliefs are? And that's kind of a hard question to answer, but
sure. So I'm part of a non-denominational church. So we, even that can kind of vary a bit in what that really means. But we partake in communion, and there's offerings and baptisms, and kind of a lot of those kind of mainly traditional things that a lot of churches and that do. But it's something I really like about, I previously mentioned, with the way like the sermons that go, it's very scripturally based, and a lot of the stuff isn't super easy things you want to hear. A lot of things kind of challenge, a lot of things that go on in today's world are not very popular beliefs. But the way you just view it's like, doesn't really matter what goes on, you can't control what other people are doing, or what the world does or whatever, but it's just like, if like something's right or wrong in your heart, it's like, that's the way you should, try to live out, even if it's not, a popular kind of way of thinking.
Okay. So you'd say you got most of these beliefs that you currently have now from faith family then?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, a lot of it can also just be your own time. Reading
Yeah.
and things like that, reflection time. Because there's a lot of truths and a lot of things that are revealed to you, and you kind of feel convictions of heart, and things that even if you necessarily want to do or think differently, you
Mhm.
shouldn't.
Gotcha. So then, what would your church right now say about like if you're going through a hard time or like dealing with trials?
Yeah. So I mean, they emphasize too, like problems and challenges and health stuff, financial stuff. I mean, unfortunately, that has a way of affecting everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a church member or not kind of thing. A lot of times, it doesn't even have to do with your level of spirituality and that. And I mean, gone through a lot of hardships and that myself with different things, and you get a lot of mental stuff that goes on every day, and that you can kind of feel overwhelmed by. But your faith can be kind of the answer for whatever your problem is, and there are endless problems, and scriptures and passages that that can help you, and they offer so much help there in that too, and
Gotcha.
people that can pray for you and that there, and
Having that
And-
support.
yeah, and having a friend group that can help you through, but it requires you to have some vulnerability in that, and wanting to get through challenges in that as well. And I think sometimes you don't really want to acknowledge it, because especially as you think, oh, I'm in church and that everybody thinks I should be good with this, and everybody thinks I have a perfect life together. In reality, nobody really does. But most people want to see you get better through the other
Absolutely,
side
yeah.
of things.
So, what would you say your relationship is with God? Your personal relationship.
Yeah, so I would say most days is pretty good in that. I mean, I think every day you look back on, you think maybe I shouldn't have said that to that person, or maybe I treated that person wrong, or you try you take shortcuts, try to be lazy somewhere where you probably shouldn't be, and or in your mind can wander off with things, and it's easy to get sidetracked with things that the world does, and then you kind of have to humble yourself and get back to and kind of acknowledge that maybe I have this problem, and maybe I kind of fell off that path a little bit there, and try to get better with it the next day. And I think sometimes there are maybe certain areas that maybe certain people generally struggle with more. Like, I feel like sometimes it's easy, to be overly judgmental of people, and I think maybe you maybe show more favoritism, or like people more that you want to like get along with, and that, which honestly there's a lot of scriptures that kind of challenge you to maybe do otherwise, and that. So I mean, there are kind of certain like general themes, I would say, in life that maybe you work on more, and finding those kind of areas for personal growth.
Yeah. Okay. So, going off that, do you feel like you've had your own personal experience with God, or how do you feel like He communicates with you, or do you feel like He communicates with you?
Yeah, so I mean, that's hard, because a lot of days you kind of feel like you have like unanswered problems, unanswered prayers, and it's easy to question like the power, or like the timing of things, or like you kind of lose your patience, thinking like,
Absolutely, yeah.
oh, it's been months for this, it's been years for this, or my family is I've seen this thing go on for so long, or whatever. You kind of question some of those things, and it kind of can sometimes get to your very root of your faith, and you lose hope with some things. And I would say, and then also sometimes from day to day you get so busy running around and everything, and that you kind of obviously struggle, kind of feel that presence, kind of thing, if you aren't making, time for that. So I would say you kind of just have to keep, reminding yourself to keep pushing on, keep believing, and even in the midst of, everything you're doing, just kind of take a minute just to kind of unplug, take some deep breaths or whatever, when you're having lunch or, taking a little break or whatever, just kind of get yourself back on track.
Okay. So overall, you feel like you have a pretty good relationship then with
Yeah.
God. You feel like even whenever your prayers may not be answered, like you still have faith that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you determine right and wrong?
So, I mean, for most things, there are scriptures, that probably can tell you that. And a lot of, you have to be careful because a lot of, I would say, people may not necessarily even tell you, give you the right advice, or maybe even some people close to you that sometimes. And then it's easy to justify some actions because it's like, nobody else, around me, lives this day, or, oh, I may not fit in, kind of thing, if I, don't go do this or whatever. But there's, usually pretty high standards, for the way you're called to, live out your life.
Gotcha. So a lot of that's kind of just pulled from scripture.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you feel like to a certain extent a lot of it's just common human sense, or?
I mean, some of it should be, but I mean, again, most of it is kind of opposite from the way you would naturally want to think or live as well.
Yeah. So what would you say some of your like key values in your life are?
Regarding like spirituality or like kind of
yeah, I mean spirituality, other things as well. I mean, just pretty general.
Yeah, I think I kind of already a lot of just your work ethic and your personal growth. I mean, I like to see those around me succeed, and I mean I try to help them out, and I try and be as loving as I can to them, and because you also want to see people around you, healthy and succeed.
Absolutely.
And I would say try and go the extra mile, just trying to like I was saying at work or whatever, maybe try to do things that you maybe don't even have to necessarily do. And I would say also the last couple of years it focused on a lot more maybe confidence and self-belief and kind of having more like everyday joy in that because didn't really have that kind of get worn down that you kind of lose that a bit, and so the last couple of years I kind of really tried to focus on that.
Okay. Has it been beneficial for you?
Yeah.
So how does, in your spirituality, how does that help you deal with sin or forgiveness?
So say it can sometimes be a little tricky because it's like you obviously don't want to like mess up with temptations and sin and things like that, but like every day we have some things that we probably do that we don't really want to do. And honestly, we don't just want to brush it off and act like it's no big deal in that, because we're forgiven for things like that. But at the same time, it's like you need to kind of grow from that, and kind of have that renewing of your mind and in your thoughts, and try and have more of that pure heart and mind, and really take every thought captive, and
so
you
you-
know.
Do you feel like whenever you do send them, like do you feel like it's more of a learning opportunity, or I guess sometimes because you are forgiven for sin, do you feel like you can get away with it, or how, like what's that?
Yeah, so that can be tricky sometimes, because a lot of times you know you kind of feel bad, like, oh, I did this wrong or whatever. And the other extreme, you can kind of just say whatever kind of thing. I would say I have a way of maybe beating myself up for too long after it kind of thing,
Okay.
or think like which can is a pretty self-destructive way of living.
Yeah.
So that's probably something you need to get better with there.
Okay. All right. Last question for you. To what extent do you feel like you have intuitive hunches? It can be like flashes of creative insight, premonitions, or spiritual insights.
So like insights as like kind of future kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like you kind of have visions for your future of like your future self, and you kind of see yourself, breaking through or something, or seeing yourself happy and seeing yourself, being successful with this, whatever. And I think you have to, in the moment, can kind of be a bit challenging, because then you kind of get back to the reality of, I'm not, maybe there yet, or you kind of think like that's kind of a bit far out there, that. But I think what I've found is whenever you believe in yourself, when you work hard on things like that, and then you like make like those positive, your like self-talk can be really, life-changing. Like, many times it's easy to be negative and tear away, bring yourself down or talk yourself out of these dreams and goals and things like that. When you believe in your, your future, and you kind of, make those affirmations that you are going to get there. If you do that day in and day out, hopefully in a couple of years, you will be there.
Gotcha. So you kind of believe that, like, really believing in yourself.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, because I would say that was kind of a thing throughout high school and kind of college, not even. I would say your kind of self-image and your self-belief and the way you kind of think of yourself, and that kind of can kind of really bring you down. So I would say really getting that better in line can help you get better.
Gotcha. Okay. So I think after kind of reviewing and talking about the spiritual assessment, I think that's going to be really beneficial to apply in like a therapeutic setting. Like, what do you think? Working with a counselor that's also Christian, faithful. Do you think that'd be something that'd be beneficial towards your therapy? Yeah. Okay. And then going off the first one, just anxiety, maybe generalized, situationally influenced, but
sure.
that could even potentially tie into something like the sleep issues. I know a lot of it's situational as well, just routine.
Sure, but they probably kind of bounce into each other, but I would say whenever I'm not getting ready to sleep, and or kind of get shifted, it kind of causes anxiety and lack of focus, or lack of desire to work hard, or whatever it may be. So it kind of bounces both ways.
Okay. Yeah, so I think maybe for future set, or work together, we can kind of look towards applying some of those spiritual beliefs into anxiety, and how that's an okay thing to feel or just experience.
Sure.
So I really appreciate you coming in today. So thank you for helping me out.
Sure.
And then have a good one.